Am I the asshole here for refusing to babysit after realizing my sister was using me as leverage in her relationship? My sister has a child with her boyfriend. They argue often, and she constantly uses her daughter as proof that she deserves more attention or sympathy. Whenever they fight, she drops the child with me so that she can leave and make her boyfriend chase her. Last week, she asked me to babysit again. I said I had work early the next day and could not. She immediately launched into a speech about how I never support her and how she's a struggling mother and I should be grateful I can help her. Later, I found out that she had told her boyfriend that I agreed to watch the child so that she could go out with her friends. She had already made plans while lying about it to the both of us. When her boyfriend found out the truth, he confronted her and she told him that I bailed at the last second. She tried to use me as the villain in their argument. I confronted her, and she said that I made everything worse by not cooperating. In the comments, Alejandro Mendoza says, "Yeah, seriously, that line was wild, and it sounds like the sister is digging her own hole here. It sounds more like the boyfriend is going to be a single dad. It sounds like the sister only wants the child for attention, and not because it's her child. Not the asshole. I hate people that weaponize their children. It's just absolutely hideous and disgusting. You were never the asshole for trying to do the right thing for a child." Posts like this make me glad that I and my siblings are currently all child-free, with my younger sister being the only one of us who is likely to ever have kids, and she's an upstanding person who would never treat us like this. God, I should tell my siblings how much I appreciate them. Be right back. Thanks, OP, for giving me some healthy perspective on other people's relationships with their family. Yeah, I'm in agreement with them there. I don't see that relationship lasting long at all. Unfortunately, in reality, if you make plans with your friends and your babysitter that you petitioned to look after the child can't look after the child, that means you cancel plans with your friends and you go and look after your child. I mean, you brought a kid into this world. You no longer have the freedoms that you once had when you were single. That's just how it is. OP knows that they're not the asshole here for this one, so, bit of a weird question, asking if they are. I don't know what prompted them to think that they were an asshole here at all, but regardless, there's your validation, OP, not the asshole, buddy. And now, on to the update. So after the whole situation where my sister lied to both me and her boyfriend, things got even more chaotic. Her boyfriend eventually reached out to me directly. He apologized for the argument and said that he just wanted to know what actually happened because my sister's story didn't make sense. I told him the truth calmly and that I said no because I had to work early, and that she still made plans behind everyone's back. He wasn't even surprised. Apparently, she's done variations of this before, just not as blatantly. He ended up confronting her again, and this time, he told her that he wasn't going to argue if she was going to drag other people into their issues. She immediately called me angry, saying that I should have covered for her so she wouldn't look bad. According to her, I made everything 10 times worse by being honest. I told her flat out that I'm not going to lie for her or be used as a prop in her relationship drama. That set her off even more. She accused me of not supporting her as a single mom, even though she's in a relationship, and only decides that she's single when they are fighting. Since then, I've put some boundaries in place. I told her that I will not babysit unless she asks in advance, and it's for an honest reason. No more last-minute drama, no more guilt trips, and absolutely no using me as a scapegoat. She's been giving me the silent treatment ever since, which honestly has been peaceful. Her boyfriend, on the other hand, thanked me again for clearing things up and said he'll handle their issues without dragging anyone else in. So yeah, not the dramatic explosion that I expected, but at least the truth is out, and I'm no longer the family default babysitter/excuse generator. In the comments, Society No says, "I went through something similar a few years ago. My sister always used me as a scapegoat when she went out. She even went so far as to say that she was at my house while she was hanging out with her boyfriend. She was leaving for several days, leaving her baby at my grandmother's house, and she lied, saying that I needed help with important things, and since I have children, she had supposedly asked me not to bring her baby because it bothered me. When I found out, I went to my grandmother to tell her the truth. You are right to set limits. After that, my sister never used me as cover again. She was angry for a while, but it was also peaceful. Over time, things were fixed. After setting limits, little by little, she changed, and even became a little responsible. And lovely Nora replies, "Reading your comments honestly made me feel seen. It's crazy how similar our situations were, down to being used as the excuse while they go off and do whatever. It really does take hitting a breaking point before you realize you're allowed to set boundaries. I'm glad things got better for you after you spoke up. Hearing that gives me hope that things will calm down on my end too. Thanks for sharing this. It genuinely made me feel less alone in all of it." Yeah, thank God putting some limits on her actually fixed the situation. Kinda sad that so many people like her just have the audacity to pull bullshit like this, but it doesn't surprise me. It's so sad that she just refuses to take responsibility for her actions at all. Just, oh, how dare you expose me? You made it 10 times worse by being honest? What? My actions reflect badly on me, and that's your fault. It's your fault that I'm being judged for my actions. How dare you, OP? You know how much of an asshole you are? That's just what she sounds like, and that's terrible. I don't think any reasonable person should associate themselves with someone as broken as that. I know I won't, so thank you for reiterating that concept for me, OP. Thank you. Our next post is by user NYC Trip Mum Throwaway, titled, "Am I the asshole for not allowing my daughter to go on an 8th grade school trip? This happened 3 years ago, and my daughter Mallory still resents us for this. I'm asking now because my son is going to be starting the 8th grade next school year, permitting that schools will reopen again and this event isn't cancelled. At my kid's school, there's a big annual spring break trip to New York City and Washington, D.C. It's something that most of the kids, including my own, were looking forward to. When Mallory started the 6th grade, she talked about wanting to go on the trip. We said that she could, so long as she got good grades and didn't get into trouble. When she was in the 7th grade, her Aunt Linda got engaged and set her wedding date for the following year. This was going to include a big family reunion with all the relatives because Linda was the last of my siblings to get married. Big fat Catholic family, many of whom we haven't seen in years. Unfortunately, Linda planned her wedding to take place the same week as Mallory's 8th grade spring break. We ended up having to tell Mallory that she couldn't go on the trip after all because everyone was going to be going to the wedding instead. Like I said, this was going to include a family reunion, and it may be the last time that we got to see some relatives, including her great-grandparents, for a long time. Mallory was heartbroken. We offered to take a family trip to New York, but she turned it down because she wanted to go with friends and not family. Understandable. Cut to the week of the wedding a year later, we flew out to New Mexico for the ceremony and crashed at my sister's, not the bride's, house. Mallory is still upset about having to be in New Mexico when all of her friends are in New York. A few days before the ceremony was to take place, Linda called off the wedding. Mallory was furious. I can still remember her blow-up. She screamed, "So I missed my trip for nothing?" and stormed off into the room that she was sharing with her cousins and wouldn't let anyone in. It was a mess afterward. I tried to cheer Mallory up by offering to take her sightseeing or go to a movie with her cousins, but she refused. I gave up after she refused to go to the movies with us, saying that she didn't want to watch a dumb kids movie with a bunch of babies. While she is the oldest of the cousins, the next nearest cousin in age was 9 at the time. Mallory refused to speak to us during the flight back. To this day, she is still angry at her Aunt Linda. I know Mallory was upset, but no one could have predicted that the wedding would be called off. We've tried to make it up to her, but she has refused every offer. I know she wants a trip with her friends, but that New York trip is expensive, and many of her friends' parents were not willing to spend more money on another outing for the girls. Because of this, Mallory thinks that I am an asshole. Am I? In the comments, Gregarious Kenku says, heavily downvoted by the way, not the asshole, but your daughter is. OP, also heavily downvoted, replies, well, this was a trip that she was looking forward to since starting middle school. OP replies to a deleted comment, saying, we didn't know ahead of time. Linda just suddenly announced 2 days before the wedding. Had I known that it was going to happen, maybe I would have let Mallory go on the trip instead. At the same time, we live in a different part of the country, and the kids rarely see their grandparents and other extended family. I want them to spend time with them when they can. No assholes here. Since I don't know why the wedding was called off. She's a teenager. This would have been a very bitter moment, but she will let it go. Since it's been a few years, maybe another trip could be organized with her friends? OP says, Linda's fiancé was cheating on her. I feel like the only way to fix this would be to put together a girls' trip for Mallory and her friends. I don't know when that will happen due to current events. My husband suggested that we let her go on a school trip for spring break in high school. She's in a club that does overseas trips, but I'm not comfortable with her traveling overseas. Peculiar Al replies, unless you want this resentment to drag on, you really need to find a way to get comfortable with it. High school overseas trips happen all the time, and the students are well protected. Being overprotective is going to make an already unfortunate situation even worse. You owe it to her at this point. OP replies, I don't know if it will happen now. I remember going over the prices with my husband, and it cost twice as much for the high school overseas trip than the New York one. It wasn't something that we could afford at the time. You're the asshole. Kids that age don't have a lot of interest in family events like weddings. The trip that she missed was a once-in-a-lifetime coming-of-age event. There is no making up for that. Would anyone have really missed her at that wedding? She wasn't the bride or any other integral part of the wedding. OP says, her cousins, for one thing, her grandparents, and her great-grandmother. My mother also wanted to take a giant group photo of the relatives to commemorate everyone coming together for the first time in a decade. Would her absence have ruined the wedding had it actually taken place? OP says, yes, because then everyone would be asking where Mallory is. Family's very important for my culture, and the excuse of a school trip wouldn't work well with my older relatives. You said that her next oldest cousin was 9. If this is a grade 8 trip, then Mallory would have been what, 13? 14? At that age, that's a huge age gap. I doubt that they would have cared that much in the long run. Thinking about what you said, you sacrificed letting your daughter go on a once-in-a-lifetime coming-of-age trip that she had looked forward to for a long time so that your mother could take a photo. You're the asshole. OP replies, it wasn't just that, it was an opportunity for us to come together. Mallory hadn't even seen many of her relatives before. It was more of a big deal because her great-grandparents were attending, and it would likely be the last time that we saw them. And it was. Her great-grandfather passed away a few months ago. You're the asshole. It doesn't even sound like you were all that close with the people that were getting married. Couldn't she have gone on the trip and you have gone to New Mexico? She missed out on a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Of course she's going to be resentful about it. OP replies, the bride was my baby's sister. I love her to bits. I was like a second mother to her growing up. Okay, so she is important to you. How often had your kids seen her in her lifetime? OP says, once, when she was a baby. I wanted Mallory to meet her aunt and actually have a memory of it. I guess it was a bad memory, as Mallory is still angry at Linda. Misty Day for President says, you're the asshole. That's so unfair. Look, my father sent my little sister to Paris and actually a Europe trip when she was in special classes in the 8th grade, and my dad barely chipped in for regular field trips for us older kids. It creates real resentment between the siblings, and it's just really a jerk move. You should chaperone and take her on the trip when your older child goes because she missed out on something that is a big deal in your town. Treat your kids equally or don't have them. Weddings aren't that important for children to attend. OP says, we offered that, and she turned that down. She didn't want to be stuck with me or her brother, or her brother's friends. I see where OP's coming from, but my perspective on this one is that what OP did was inherently very selfish and did not think of her daughter's well-being at all. If she wanted her daughter to give a fuck about Mallory's wedding, she would have had Mallory visit some time, maybe a handful of times, in the 13 years that she had not been present. How are you so disconnected from your sister for 13 years that neither of you can, manage a meetup at any point until it's Mallory's wedding? That is poor form on her behalf, thinking that her daughter is going to give a fuck about that wedding when there is a coming-of-age trip that was set up, that was hyped up for more than a year, and especially given at 10, 11, 12, that age range, when it's something as big as this and it's a year away, that is gigantic, that is all-consuming. And you, OP, have no empathy for her on how much of an impact that does make to her mentally, and you say, oh, suck it up. This is for my sister, this is for your family, this is more important actually than something that has been at the forefront of your mind for a significant chunk of your conscious life. Genuinely cruel. Like, oh, we offered her another trip and she turned that down. That's because it's such a downgrade and you have no perspective on how she's feeling, so you don't care about what you're offering her or how you are trying to deal with her in this situation. I'm really seeing a genuine lack of care from all of your responses. And how are you going to say family is so important in your culture? You said that. You said that they're so important. Family is everything for us, so family is more important than whatever, trip my daughter wants to go on. When's the last time you saw any of them? If they're that important, you'd be making efforts all the time to see them and spend time with them. If it's important, you put it on a pedestal, yet you don't. You liar. You deserve all the hate and vitriol that you've got because, everything that you are doing is self-serving, so screw you, OP. You're the asshole. And now, onto the update, which was in the comments of another post 3 years, 6 months, and 27 days later. That post was titled, "Am I the asshole for not allowing my daughter to go on an 8th grade school trip?" So, OP responded to an Am I the Asshole post by describing her relationship with her daughter. This is why she included the judgment that she originally gave the OP of this post. OP says, "You are not the asshole. Take it from someone who made this mistake with her own daughter 7 years ago. I made my daughter miss her 8th grade trip so that we could attend a family reunion/wedding, which would then go on to be cancelled. Mallory resented me for years afterwards. She always brought up how much she hated the trip that we took her on and how much she felt left out of a bonding experience that her friends shared. She was never close with my side of the family, the ones that we were visiting, and doesn't want to have anything to do with them now. She found ways to exclude me from other milestones to make me feel how she felt. She didn't want me there when she picked up her prom dress and took her dad with her when they got the pictures taken. Even now, our relationship is distant. Her father and I got a divorce years ago. Mallory chose to spend her senior year at her dad's and has made no effort to reach out to me since she went to college. Show your husband this post and tell him that this is his future if he makes his daughter visit his family. My daughter hates me and won't have anything to do with me anymore." In the comments, 41 Flavors and Then Some says, quote, "It was an opportunity for us to come together. Mallory hadn't even seen many of her relatives before. As a fully grown adult, I've come to appreciate what family means." It doesn't seem to mean much to OP though. Mallory would have been 13 to 14, so OP hadn't seen her sister in all that time, since Mallory hadn't seen her Aunt Linda since Mallory was a baby, and the rest are people that she didn't or barely knew? OP is fucked for life. She thinks that Mallory is doing things now, so OP knows how she felt. I think the relationship is broken beyond repair. I suspect that the trip is the straw that broke the camel's back for Mallory in a long line of unequal treatment and broken promises. Even if it was a one-off, it is still weeks/months of mum having it fixed in her head that it is so important for extended family to meet her daughter that she, the daughter, literally has no relationship with. So important that her daughter has to miss a trip that she, daughter, has planned for 2 frickin' years. Weeks/months of trying to convince her mum that these people literally do not know her, and her mum ignoring that fact because mum can't deal with someone maybe noticing one of her kids didn't come. Can't think of a way to tell people that your daughter is on a school trip? How hard is that, really? Wild. Missing reasons. I wonder what else OP didn't let Mallory do. I mean, she wouldn't let her go on the high school version of the trip overseas because reasons. Family is important to my culture. Proceeds to describe how she rarely sees her family and her daughter has no memory of ever seeing her aunt or great-grandparents. Didn't seem important until the family was expected at the wedding for a picture to appear like family is important. Unless you were directly involved in the wedding or really close family, nobody should be forced to go to a wedding or cancel existing plans to attend. OP just wanted to show off her perfect family to her relatives and made that Mallory's problem. I guarantee that if the wedding happened and she got the photo that she wanted, she wouldn't care about how her daughter feels in the slightest. No, but you don't see. If it is a child, her plans don't matter. Any plans that my child makes are actually inconsequential and can be and will be cancelled if I believe that there are more important plans that I want to do. And because I planned them as OP, they are always going to be more important than whatever my child daughter wants. Silly Reddit comments, you guys have no idea what you're talking about. Children don't get to have autonomy or opinions. And then like that story yesterday, as soon as they hit 18, they're actually adults, and anything that I do to them that personally affects them, well, they are adults now and they need to act like it. And much like that father in that story, if she doesn't play ball, I'm kicking her out of my house because she can't control her emotions. Yes, no matter what happens, I always win. I'm sure this is going to go well for me as the OP, having a relationship with my daughter in the future. I just can't get over how stupid and self-serving a lot of these parents are. Genuinely at that point, why do they even have kids? What is the point? Having kids is just another version of self-serving. I'm convinced, after seeing the ways that they carry themselves, the way that they act towards their children and other people, it can't be anything besides a selfish, picturesque, family kind of warped reality that they want to exist, but that does not exist. Just they're keeping up with the Joneses while their own internal family life crumbles and they have no relationship with their daughter whatsoever. Sucks to suck, but hey, glad that it's not my life. Thank you for the story and thank you for the update, OP. Anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to end today's episode. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.